This is the Build with Tech podcast, where we dive into the minds of business leaders, building tech-enabled businesses to launch and scale profitable enterprises. With your host, Rey Ortega.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Build with Tech podcast, where we deep dive into the minds of entrepreneurs and explore how they leverage technology in order to drive business forward. I'm your host, Rey Ortega from Grata Software, and we're a proud sponsor of this podcast. And today we have an exciting guest, Dave Kustin, the founder of Element M and co-founder of Content Bacon. Now, Dave is an incredible journey in brand building, utilizing his background in TV and film production to create powerful branding strategies. We'll learn about his approach, his company's tech integrations, and valuable insights into successful brand engineering. Hey, Dave, how's it going?
Great, Ray. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, it's great to have you. I'm really excited about our conversation. I know we talked last time about your businesses, and definitely wanted to get the audience to understand a little bit more about you, your business, your background. So give us a little bit of details about your businesses and how you came about.
Okay, great. So I started professional life in Los Angeles in 1997, and I started to work in the feature film and television production and post-production industry post undergrad. And that was an entirely new experience, or at least educational experience for me, going from learning about television production to film production. I was in TV school, if you want to kind of just use similar phrases or terms. And so that was really great. But the great part, which ultimately served me later in my career, was learning about storytelling, learning about those fundamentals of storytelling, which is every story has, basically the same elements, which is a beginning, a middle, and an end, good guy, bad guy, problem, solution. That's it. That construct exists in every story. And so when I, went through my professional life early on in Los Angeles and then moved back to South Florida, where I made a career change, I used all of those storytelling lessons now in the marketing space. Sales and marketing is all about storytelling. And so I use that framework to help with telling my customers' stories to their customers and prospects. And it's extremely effective, was extremely effective, is extremely effective. And that's what I've relied on to build businesses, start businesses, and build brands.
Absolutely. Storytelling is one of the biggest things right now. Like, everyone talks about storytelling. You have, Donald Miller. You have all these writers out there that they're all trying to teach people how to write copy in a story-based format. Russell Brunson talks about, hook, story, offer, all that kind of stuff. So when you first started, what was it like as far as competition was? Because I know that for years there's been a huge influx of people that are in the PR space, marketing space, and everyone kind of is telling telling stories, so to speak. Where did you find yourself when you first started in your business?
Well, there was, has been, is, and there's probably more competition now. But when I started Element M in 2009, we were in the midst of a banking economic crisis. And, good news, bad news. Good news was I had available to me a whole network of professionals that I could bring into an engagement. And then that's how I initially built the business, which was being able to offer very, what you might call traditional agency services in a boutique environment, or boutique pricing, which is another word for saying, cost less. And so there was lots of competition. I think what has materially changed from then to now are the tactics available. That's the giant change. That's the change that in some ways is serving companies very, very well, but it's also, I think, hurting some companies. And what I mean by that is, so early on in my agency life, I was very focused on helping customers build a position in the market, which really was another way of saying build a position in the minds of consumers, prospects, and customers. I feel like a lot of that belief or practice has gone away with the advent of all the tactics. And so there's a lot of marketing managers, marketing people out there that are extremely gifted at leveraging the platforms, running the tactics, but they don't know anything about brand positioning.
Absolutely.
That does such a disservice to their customers or their employers. And then ultimately the customer loses because everything kind of looks the same. Everything sounds the same. There is no positioning. Everything is a commodity. most things are commodities, but the art of brand positioning is to decommoditize vis-a-vis positioning. And so that's where I like to live. I like to live in that part of the service industry.
For the audience, could you explain the difference between branding and marketing? Because I think that's a great distinction you mentioned a little bit ago. Go ahead.
So branding, or a brand, in my world, a brand is a vessel. It's an empty vessel. It doesn't become a brand until you fill that vessel with meaning, with images, with words, with service, with experience. All of those things collectively are what creates a brand. Again, a brand or a logo is just a vessel, right? This is a brand that I did, a name. I actually own a piece of this company, Ice Butcher. The name Ice Butcher doesn't mean anything until I start applying things to it, until I fill that empty vessel with meaning. Marketing is the environment in which it creates an opportunity for a sale to happen. Those things are very distinct. You know, when you're marketing and you're trying to create that environment for a sale to happen, brand is in there. Ideally, if you have a great brand, memorable brand, quirky brand, interesting brand, whatever, the prospect, their brain's going to pay attention to that. Whereas if you have, something that's boring, milquetoast, indistinguishable from the competition, the brain says, well, I don't really care about that. I'm not going to pay attention. And then the environment for a sale doesn't really occur.
What would you think for someone who's starting a new business? What would you think is the better or the faster of the two to be able to accomplish, especially when you're always on limited time and budget?
I had this conversation yesterday. It's not an either or, it's an and.
Okay.
It's not either or, it's and. And, if you're going to be out there marketing, you better have a good brand. You better have a brand that because that's an asset. That's an enterprise level asset that should work for you when you're out in the room. I mean, that's the other sort of definition of a brand, which is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So it's not either or, it's and.
Awesome. Yeah. And I agree with that, because when I started my company 10 years ago, I started Grata Software. We originally we did the branding first, no marketing. And it kind of, it only worked when we did like face-to-face sales, but when we went online, like nobody knew who we were. Yeah. So it was really weird. But yeah, I totally understand the whole branding. You have to do it both at the same time. Now, when you started your business though, how did you approach your branding? How did you approach your marketing in order to get out there?
So I was, this was, 2008-ish, early 2009. I was in grad school. Went back to school when I came back to South Florida to get my graduate degree. And I'm in, the final course, the final class of my MBA. And I was doodling on a notepad, and I started to write the word positioning, P-O, and I stopped at the O and I put a box around it. And I just had a vision of, well, that's like the periodic table of elements. And so that spun into the periodic table of branding, advertising, marketing elements. And so that's how element M was born. M is the one element that ties all businesses together, the M being marketing. And so that was the foundation of the story I wanted to tell, the visual story. And then with respect to how I grew the business, this again is 2009. Digital marketing wasn't so much a thing, or at least it wasn't a thing that I was very versed in. So it was networking, a lot of networking. I had a pretty deep Rolodex. I'm going to use an old fashioned word. I had a deep Rolodex of relationship capital, and I would call upon everyone that I ever met, ever knew, ever had a meeting with, and said, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm up to. How can I help you? What opportunities are there that we could explore together? And that's what I did for the very early part of the business.
That's awesome, because one of the things I talk to people about, especially people that are trying to start a new business, is sometimes that is the lowest hanging fruit, is just picking up the phone and just calling people.
Absolutely.
I was lucky enough to have years of phone sales, like working in phone sales and telemarketing and stuff like that. So I was able to do it pretty comfortably. How when you did it, did you have a background in that, or it's kind of something you forced yourself to do?
No background in phone sales, a little bit. But while I was in grad school, when I moved back here, I started to work for a marketing agency. And that's where a lot of my Rolodex got built, through that business and meeting people, doing other, going to events, putting on events for my customers, clients. So I had that Rolodex already kind of built. And it was very easy for me to just email people or call people and say, hey, this is what I'm up to.
Awesome. So what would you say because you said 2009 is when you started, right?
Yeah.
What would you say what was your biggest challenge at the beginning, but then also as you progressed through your business?
So at the beginning, I just gave a talk to the grad school I went to, gave a talk to an MBA class just a few weeks ago. And we talked about this. And I'm 50 years old now. I started that business when I was 35 or so. And, your spirit, my risk-taking appetite is still pretty strong. But, at 35, it was just different. And maybe I was just sort of blind to some things or not self-aware enough about some things. So long-winded answer to, I was incredibly enthusiastic. I was so excited. I had such purpose.
Yeah.
And having purpose is ageless. So, I had purpose, and I didn't really worry about the finances. I was not in a great financial position, but in 2009, I was laid off from a job. And so, I really didn't see myself replacing that income in the job market in 2009. So I'm like, I'm just going to do this. And I felt like I had no choice but to do it.
Okay. So that was basically your why?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, my why was I wanted to create something. I wanted to build something.
Yeah.
And I did. And, that evolved into something else. That evolved into the next thing, which also I had a lot of purpose for. So, I identify with being a builder, a creator and a builder. And I like to do that. I get a lot of satisfaction out of it. And so that's what drove me and then drives me now.
Awesome. Would you consider yourself, so when you were first starting out, would you consider yourself like you went full on, like, or did you like kind of dip your toe in the water?
No, there was no dipping. I didn't have, the company I was working for, I was the CMO for that company. It was an angel funded, email marketing company. And so, I knew I knew the end was near with respect to angels no longer wanting to fund.
That's how all those startups work.
Right. So I was prepared. I was in grad school while working full time, and so I was readying for it. And March of 2009, the company shut up, trimmed its staff, shut down partially. But I also had my first client in 2009, so I was prepared. So that first client didn't cover all the bills, of course. I still had to hustle and get more clients, but that's how I started in the beginning. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah,
all in, no toes.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad you said that because like I talk to people about whether you dip your toes in or you go full in, right? I'm a huge fan of the burn your boats. I'm that kind of guy. So like I had a family, 2 kids, a wife, one child's autistic, one child just had gotten done through treatment for thyroid cancer, and I basically went, I can't afford the medical bills. I can't afford anything with a job. Like I just can't. So I basically just went cold turkey. I just like woke up one morning, I registered the business, and then I put in my notice and I said, I'm doing this.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah. So awesome. So would you say in your journey throughout the years, what would you say was the best thing that happened to you? What's the thing that kind of was that moment that you're like, oh man, I can do this. I can really succeed in this thing.
Oh, that's a tough one. I think a lot of times, a lot of entrepreneurs, myself included, we don't realize the bad things are the good things. The things that it's a punch to the gut. It's a loss. Perhaps it feels like a loss. I think at the end of the day, or maybe the end of the year, if you will, and you look back, you're like, shit, that was a good thing that happened. It was good that happened. We don't learn as much from our successes as we do from the losses. And so I don't think there's any one thing, Ray. I think there's probably a lot of things. There's a lot of little things that have occurred over the different businesses I've been engaged with, and they've all been maybe felt crappy at the time, but really ultimately good.
Yeah, I can understand that. The hard part about this whole journey though is like, and then what you were saying earlier is like, you're like, it's hard to answer. It's a hard question to answer. Like, what was this moment that made things happen or whatever, especially because you're in it every day, right? You're in the grind still. So you haven't, and it's not to sound anything lower, but just normally everyone tells you need to elevate yourself where you're like above the business and the business just kind of operates on its own. That's where everybody wants to get to, right? That business owner where you're not really working every day, but you're working every day in your business still till today.
Oh yeah, absolutely. More than one business.
And what would you attribute that to? Is that because like you personally just love what you do, or is it just something that like you have to do because you maybe don't find the right resources to kind of take over? Like, how's that going?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the where the businesses are. They're not at a point where I'm chairman of the board, so to speak. My Element M requires me to be involved for it to live and grow. And it's kind of been sitting on the shelf for a little bit. So I'm, restarting that business to a large degree. Content Bacon, my partner and I are both actively involved in that business. And that's where it lives and exists right now. And it needs us both.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Now, as far as technology, so let's go to the technology side of things.
Okay.
So, like my business, like we focus a lot on technology, obviously, because we're a technology company. We're a technology consulting company. And we work with businesses very similar to yours. And we're building constantly tech to automate a lot of processes. Where would you say you guys fit in that realm? Do you guys use a lot of tech? Is it mostly like hands-on, like not like you have tech run your business, but you kind of run the tech? So how does that work in your business right now?
Yeah, there's certainly some tech. And it's funny, I think that term or word tech is so means so much. It's so different now than it was maybe 10 years ago.
It's like all over the place.
Right. And what's tech doesn't even feel like tech anymore. It's just a thing, right? It's like, is this tech? I don't know. I mean, it's a phone now. It's not tech anymore.
Exactly.
But, okay. So to answer your question on the agency side, on the branding, on Element M, not a lot of tech there. So I use ChatGPT to help me do research. I'll use it to have it teach me something. That's really the extent of it. There, obviously, my designer or designers, they're using their tech to design. They're using, Photoshop and the Adobe suite of tools. Again, is that tech? I don't know. That's like instead of pencil and paper.
Yeah, that is tech. That is tech to extent. So this is the funny thing, and you and I are basically the same generation. Yeah. So for us, like tech is like anything technology is considered tech, and it's considered part of like the tech of your business.
Yeah.
Whereas like there's a lot of people that we meet out there that their version of tech is like ChatGPT was like, we just discovered oil, and for people like us, it's like, oh, cool. Another tool, it's just another tool to use, like it's crazy.
When I think of the word tech, I think of automation. I think of what is it? A tool that replaces manual effort. So
exactly
on the Content Bacon side, we're a HubSpot agency partner.
Okay.
So we use that, for our business. We manage it for our customers. So, I mean, there's automation there.
Yeah.
We might use GPT or a GPT for research. We don't use it for writing. We don't use it for editing. We use human beings for that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Elaborate on that. That's very interesting. I'd like to hear your take on that, because obviously there's a lot of organizations and agencies that are probably competitors of yours that are literally leveraging ChatGPT to write a lot of the content.
Yeah.
So and I think what you're doing is not only honorable, but I think the right way to do it. Right. I think it's, so just elaborate more on that. Like what's your mentality behind that?
Yeah. Our kind of high level feeling and responses. It doesn't have any heart. That business, Content Bacon, is in the business of creating connections for customers or our customers and their prospects and customers. So connection is here. Me and you, Ray, it's human to human, and you need it. You need a human being to do that. So our experience has been AI created content is heartless. It's like the Tin Man. And, we very often read content and it's like, that doesn't sound right. It just doesn't sound right. It doesn't read right. Occasionally my partner might send me a message and I'm like, I'll write her back. I'm like, did you write this or did AI write this? And so that's where today GPT or AI content lives for us. Now, tomorrow, who knows what it's going to be? Like the most human centered AI can exist. And that's certainly a possibility. But today we use AI to help us in a very different way than our competition may. Humans first, machines second.
That's awesome, because we always talk about the humanity of AI. So like when we develop AI for companies, we develop like specific artificial intelligence solutions that are for that companies, like with their data set and to do something for them.
Yeah.
Right. And the idea is never to replace an employee, but just enhance their job.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's how we use it. We use it not to replace a writer or replace an editor. Our editing team is our secret sauce. They're the ones that make sure the content has heart, on strategy, is serving a purpose, helping the prospect or the reader, et cetera. I mean, human beings have to do that.
Exactly. No, absolutely. That's probably one of the things that I feel like we're fighting in today's society, especially in the business world. We're fighting that mentality because if you go on TikTok, you go on Instagram, you always have all of these gurus talking about you can use AI to build $1 million business in your underwear in 90 days.
I'm very
with no experience.
I'm very skeptical. I see those messages all the time. Not just on TikTok. I see them on LinkedIn. I don't know. I call BS on it.
Yeah, we have a similar thing in the tech. So cybersecurity is a huge term, right? So there's a guy who on TikTok had all these ads that says in 90 days you can make 6 figures as a cybersecurity expert. And I'm in Tech Talk, which is like the tech side of TikTok. And I'm in this group, and we were all calling BS on that. We're like, come on, man, 90 days, 6 figures in 90 days, entering the tech world for the first time ever. That's just crazy. Like it's impossible. So do you guys see any of those types of things in your industry? A lot of people are doing like a lot of these little shortcut things that you're kind of competing.
I mean, I haven't really, jumped in to learn more about them because that's not the world we're operating in. I think, yes, we see those messages where it's like use AI to build a digital agency or use AI to be a content agency. And I say, good luck to you. Good luck. Because, can you use that to create a little side hustle? Sure. I'm sure you can, but that's not the world we're operating in. We're targeting middle market companies that have, marketing departments and sales departments and marketing leaders and sales leaders. And you can't do that with AI. You need humans to interface and interact and to create solutions. And that's where we're operating.
Yeah. And so going back to the business side, and you just said the market that you're into, is that something that came from the Rolodex when you first started, or is that you kind of built into that?
Content Bacon started its life 10 years ago. And again, the world was very different 10 years ago, especially in the content marketing world. 10 years ago, there was two, the way we saw it, two basic parts of the service industry, where over here on one end, you had the very high priced content agencies of the world, $10,000 retainers, $20,000 retainers. And then over here, you had the Fiverr resources, the Upwork resources, and really very little in between. So we set out to create a business that occupied that space in between where there was nothing. This goes back to the positioning exercise. There was nothing there. And furthermore, to differentiate, we didn't want to go to market as an agency. We went to market as a subscription business, subscription model. So we called it content as a service, CAAS, instead of SaaS. And so that's what the market looked like 10 years ago when we were targeting businesses that, bigger than mom and pops, call it $2 million to $10 million in revenue. Those kinds of businesses might have been entrepreneur led. Maybe they had a marketing director or a VP of marketing, but not a CMO or anything like that. And they had a small or no marketing department. And we filled that gap to be their content provider, not their VP of marketing. We didn't create their go-to-market strategy. We created their content strategy. And so that's how we went to market. That has now evolved into serving larger companies in that middle market that I mentioned.
How do you ensure that you stay on top of the technology and the business strategy? How do you keep all that in line in your business right now?
Yeah, we have a team. We have a great team. We have a full-time team of about 10, and various team members are always. We've created a culture of curiosity. We've created a culture where our team members are interested in what's going on. They're not just, punching the clock and, kind of doing their job and they go away. They just yesterday, one of our team members posted a long article that he stumbled across about AI and different digital marketing tactics and shared that with the team. And, we're all on Slack and we collaborate there and share there. And so that's how we stay on top of it. It's sort of an all hands on deck effort.
Nice. That makes sense. Yeah, we have Slack as well with our team. So a lot of
There's tech. I forgot. There's tech.
There's tech. We talked about tech.
Yeah.
We got Slack in there. Awesome. Yeah. So question, where do you see the company in the next 5 years?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we're celebrating 10 years and we've completed, we're pretty much at the end here of completing a pivot of sorts, a repositioning where those first 10 years were very much focused on being a company's content resource, content producer, provider. We're still going to be doing that, but what we've added is helping sales departments properly, fully, and effectively leverage their CRMs. Again, tech conversation here. So the data is extremely clear here, where VP or salespeople don't want to play around with their CRM.
Exactly.
One of the data points that we just saw recently was a survey that said 66% of salespeople would rather go to the dentist. They'd rather go to the DMV. They'd rather clean their bathroom than work on the CRM. And so what that tells us is they're not leveraging it properly. And that's where the winning for companies in the tech space, service industries, not email marketing. That's very e-com. That's very consumer goods. We're talking about professional services. We want to help them leverage their CRM. And so we think it's a giant opportunity. And over the next 5 years, we're going to, attack that vertical and, crush it.
Awesome. Have you guys ever used SEMrush before?
Yeah, we do. We use tools like that. Again, I don't think of them as tech anymore, right? It's like,
yeah. Well, the reason why I mentioned that is that you said something very profound right now. Just you're talking about CRMs, and the reason why I mentioned it is because I was on SEMrush on Saturday, because I usually on the weekends I try to look up the content ideas that we're going to do for the week. Yeah. And I went in there and I typed in like small business technology, like that subject, and it was over. I think the first search was CRM based. It's like almost the first swath of searches that's like the highest level searches every month is CRM based. And I was kind of shocked at that, because almost everything was, and it was all types of questions, how CRMs work, or what can I do to get a CRM, or how do I manage my CRM? Everything was like CRM on top of that. So I find that interesting how you're targeting like that specific subject matter. Yeah. And that tends to be the one right now that's kind of like up here when it comes to the subjects that people are talking about.
We believe a great opportunity, because salespeople are, let's agree that they're great at being salespeople, but they don't have access to the content that goes into the CRM. They don't have the knowledge to create a drip campaign or buyer persona, buyer's journey, strategy. They don't have that. Furthermore, if I'm VP of sales, I don't want my people doing that. I want to give them that tool. I want to give them that library of content that they just plug in and use that's already there for them.
Have you heard of Air AI?
Can't say that I have.
So I just ran into this on Saturday. In fact, we signed up for an account. So Air AI is a complete SDR sales tool that's strictly AI driven.
I have.
Okay. Yes. So the thing is it's funny you're saying this, because I contacted them yesterday because I told them, I said, if my CRM can communicate with your platform, then because I don't want to use it for sales. Because again, go back to the humanity side of it.
Sure.
I don't want to use it for the sales process, but I want to use it for just the first SDR, the appointment setting. Yeah. And the reason why is because people have emotions. And when they make those outbound calls, they let their emotions get the best of them. So they don't complete the script, or they don't go through the script. They kind of just veer away. And the thing is, because artificial intelligence has no emotions, right? You can give it the script and it'll just continue pounding the script. Yep. Even if someone's, and by the way, I've tested this thing where I've gone completely off the walls. Like I gave it responses that there's no way it would have responded correctly, but it does.
It's really impressive.
It's very impressive.
I've heard the recordings and they're shockingly human-like.
Yes, shockingly human-like. But the thing is, I did the demo, like I actually have a live demo going right now of my company. I just gave it like a bunch of parameters and I just drilled this thing. I was like, no, I'm not interested. Get off the phone. I don't even want to talk to you. And it always goes, okay, before I get you off the phone, can I ask you one more question?
I love it. I love it.
But if there was a human, if it was like your employee, they would be like, oh man, okay, I'll just get off the phone, like, because they get flustered. So anyways, but I just wanted to bring that up because I thought it was hilarious, because when you're talking about the CRM stuff, like we're trying to figure out how, if they can integrate their stuff with CRMs, I think it would make life easier. Because I think for salespeople, they just want to sell. Like they just want to be able to talk. They don't want to go in there and type a bunch of stuff, and they just want to go ahead and just do their pitch, and then they move on to the next one. Yeah.
And as a business owner, that's all I want them to do.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. So cool. I just thought it was a good topic, a funny topic, because I was just going over that over the weekend, and I'm still messing with the Air. I actually have a meeting with them next week because they have a 2.0 coming out that's even better than the original, and I'm gonna go check it out.
I think we're going to explore that as for some as the same way you're using it. Initial,
and it's cheap.
Setting.
I think I did like 5 calls on Saturday, like test calls. They were about 3, 4, 5 minutes each. I think I spent maybe about 20 cents, and I'm sitting going like, like this. And you have to integrate Twilio. So that's the only thing is you have to integrate Twilio for the calling, the outbound calling. But that's basically it.
No problem.
Sorry. So there's the tech part of the podcast.
Yeah.
So cool. Okay. Big question here. What advice would you give someone looking to start their own business, whether it be something like yours or just any business in general? What advice?
So do it. Just do it is really the advice, which I know sounds kind of non-specific, but if you have that urge, that feeling of purpose, the world is going to be better because your thing is out there, your product or service is out there. Do it. And I totally salute the flag of side hustle and start small, but nothing happens unless you do it. That idea, that product or service doesn't happen if it's just in your head or on a piece of paper. So that's sort of high level esoteric advice. Practical advice is seek help, connect with people, find a mentor, someone who's done it before, who can advise you and coach you. That's real practical advice. The world may not want or need that thing that you want to put out there. So do some work around validating that as much as you can. Don't get stuck on that or in that, but I would do a little bit of validation and find a coach or a mentor.
Personal question. Yeah. How do you maintain a work-life balance?
I don't know. Or maybe you could tell me.
Or do you believe in work-life balance?
What does that mean? Like 6 o'clock rolls around and I don't check my phone or my computer?
Exactly.
No, I guess I don't. I don't know that there is that, at least not for me. I mean, maybe there are, I'm sure there are entrepreneurs who do that, but yeah, I mean, I guess it's really about my attention and my focus and how and when I'm applying that focus and my being present. And so if I'm with my family, I'm going to be present with my family and do my best to be. But if I'm going to sit at my laptop, at 8 o'clock, work on some stuff, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. I always wonder because there's so much push about this whole work-life balance. And I feel like when you're doing something that you love, there is no really work-life balance. You just do. Yeah,
that's that whole purpose thing. When you have purpose, when you feel purpose and you're driven by it, that's what you want to do, no matter what time, no matter where. Purpose is incredibly intoxicating and useful.
Absolutely. So, Dave, how can people find you? First of all, how do people find you? Second of all, if you have anything, what's anything you'd like to offer the audience? So
the offering, I'm happy to chat with anybody who's struggling with their brand, who thinks their brand might be tired or needs a freshening, a rebrand. I'm happy to just chat with you. I'm not going to sell or pitch anything. I'm happy to give some feedback, give you some things to think about, what I might share initially, what I might look at changing or evolving. Same thing on the content side. If someone's struggling with what do I write about? What do I share? What's my content strategy? Happy to chat with you about that. You can find me through my 2 websites, element-m.com. That's my branding agency, and it's Dave at element-m.com. And Content Bacon is contentbacon.com and Dave at contentbacon.com. And I'm on LinkedIn. Go to LinkedIn and you'll get me there.
Go to LinkedIn, connect with them, and then pitch him something immediately after he accepts.
Exactly.
Like everybody else does. No,
like everybody else. LinkedIn has become such a disappointment to me. Like
it is. I absolutely agree.
I feel it to be so very useless now.
Yeah. Well, we have Apollo. So you use HubSpot, but we use Apollo for our outbound stuff. And there's a whole sequence that you can create where it automatically starts connecting with LinkedIn. And then you can add the automation to automatically send the message after they accept the connection. And I tell my team, please don't use that. Whatever you do, don't use that.
Or if you do use it, humanize it. Don't pitch something, offer something.
Exactly. Yeah. Awesome, man. Any last final thoughts before we jump off?
Again, if we're talking about in the context of entrepreneurship, do it. Be a creator. The world needs more creation, and if you want to chat about that too, I'm happy to do so.
Awesome. Well, Dave, thank you very much for being on this podcast. I really hope that our audience gets a lot of great feedback here. a lot of information that they could use in order to help grow their business. And then also understand a little bit of what technology you use in your business as well, in the PR space and the branding space. So thanks again. And for those watching, just, like, subscribe, follow, all the things that you would do to keep track of the podcast as we come up with episodes every couple weeks, where we obviously look at the insights and the mindset of entrepreneurs and businesses all across the world that are using technology to help grow and scale their business. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next podcast.